Niraj, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Absolute pleasure, buddy.
Man, I
Great
just love
stuff.
the work you've been doing. We had you on a little over, I think it was like a little over a year and a half ago. I was wanting to have you back eventually. This is like the perfect time to have someone like you, your mind, your awakeness. You've taken the red pill, as we were discussing beforehand, getting on here. And it's just great to have an individual like yourself and what you're doing, and but also the awareness level where you are when it comes to
Nice.
everything that we're dealing with in life today.
Great, man. It's absolute pleasure to be back.
So, last time I had you here, we didn't have all this COVID stuff going on. We didn't have all these lockdowns and so forth. I think one of the things that I think is very, when we look at all this and how things are going with life, I think one of the things you're doing with SOMA Breath work and all that, I think that's a critical piece in helping individuals really handle the adversity, right? Because this year has been pretty much a massive up and down global effect in the world. And you have a tool that you've been presenting with the world to help massively in this type of process of what's happening here.
Yes, indeed, indeed. So actually, there was a while ago, somebody, I think some doctor in England posted a video on breathing techniques that he was sharing with his patients and giving a lot of benefits to his patients to get the oxygen back to the cells. Well, yeah, breathing techniques definitely help get oxygen to where it needs to go. So we have actually, through our Soma Breath community, which has grown quite a bit since we last spoke, actually, we've got over 1,000 instructors and we've got amazing people, delivering these techniques and getting fantastic results, especially, well, actually, you know what? To be honest, there's not that many people in our group who have had COVID or know people who've had COVID. It's quite a small group of people who have. I mean, our group's like 30,000 almost people, but the amount of people who've actually responded to say that they've suffered from it has been quite small. So um, what we found though was that there were quite a few amazing stories of people who claim that they got incredible results from our Soma Breath course and our techniques. And our techniques are very simple, based on pranayama, but we've made it a bit more fun with the music, and we use this one technique called kumbhaka, which actually really strengthens your whole nervous system, cardiovascular system, and also helps get oxygen to where it needs to go. It's like a very powerful method, and that's why in pranayama it's like the most revered breathing technique. It basically is about breath retention, holding your breath in specific ways. So yeah, we've been witnessing, a few, not tons, because as I said, there's not that many people that we've seen who's even suffered from it yet. But yeah, we get some really compelling results, and it's quite easy to explain scientifically why it works. And I could talk to you a little bit about how breathing exercises can help with any kind of illness, infection. But I won't say this is a cure. Okay. A cure is a very funny word. Cure, by definition, really means to bring somebody back to the state they were in before they had the disease. But that doesn't happen with us. With us, what happens is they transform. They go and become a completely different person at the end of it. Even their brain changes, shape. That from neurogenesis, they become a different person, a different character. Illnesses are often because of a person character. The ego is holding on to that disease for some reason. Okay. And when you can rewire that, breathing techniques are one powerful way of doing that. Chiropractic's a way of rewiring the brain too. It's very powerful. You can actually bring about healing of chronic issues. But acute infections is kind of slightly different ballgame because, yep, healthy people can also get the flu, the colds, it happens, But what we can do is prevent it from coming to you in the first place. But we can also minimize the harm it does to the body, right? That's what a holistic practice like what we teach can bring. And what I've now done with Soma Breath is we've gone kind of beyond breathwork. Before it was primarily a breathwork school, but now I brought in the extra layer because I realized that actually that you can't just do breathing techniques and that's it. There is, I mean, it does improve your health quite considerably, just that alone. But to really make a difference, you need to be holistic in your approach. And the way I actually healed myself, which a lot of people would ask me, how did I do it? When I had the ulcerative colitis, autoimmune condition years ago, it was a holistic approach. It was a change of diet. It was a change of lifestyle. It was a change of how I breathe. It was mind reprogramming. It was releasing emotions that had been trapped in the body. So many aspects that had to be dealt with, and breathwork alone can't do all that. So that's why yoga is a system as it is. Pranayama is just one branch of it, and there's a few different branches. And in SOMA Breath now, we bring in all those branches, but we bring it in a way that's more fun, easier to manage, more enjoyable, and to also teach. So the music adds a big component to it. So that's what we've evolved into now. We have like a master certification. We have many people taking that, having amazing results. Because the thing with what we do with Ayurveda, and the interesting thing with Ayurveda is that it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. Problem with mainstream health is that it tries to blanket everybody and put everybody into an average. And here's the big problem with that. So if you were to take the population and work out the average blood pressure of that population, okay, if you were to plot everyone's in the population's blood pressure, you're going to get like a bell-shaped curve. It's going to be like this, okay? And in the middle is the average, which is 120 over 80, okay? But there are people on either side, okay, who are around 25% on the either side, who are different from the average. Their normal, is not the average normal. Do you get what I'm saying? So what happens is when you go for a blood pressure checkup, you get 25% false positives every time, and therefore you're manufacturing disease in these people, right? What was Gandhi's blood pressure for most of his life until he...
I have no idea. Probably low, I'm assuming.
No. Yeah, that's what you'd expect. 200 over 100. And every doctor who checked Gandhi freaked out. They were trying to convince him to take medications to lower it. He was like, no, I'm perfectly fine. And what did he die of? He died of a bullet in his head when he was 80 years old, right? Not from blood pressure problems. And guess what? When they did the post-mortem on him, the autopsy, they found no complications from high blood pressure. Okay, so what we're doing right now is we're blanketing prescriptions on people, and that's basically causing the big problem in healthcare. And if you bring somebody whose normal is, say, a high blood pressure, this happens with cholesterol quite often, right? Same problem with cholesterol. If you add cholesterol-lowering drugs to somebody whose normal cholesterol is higher than yours or mine, you're going to cause them side effects, and they might even lose their brain function and get Alzheimer's and other things. So this is the big problem with modern healthcare, is this average patient model. I'm trying to make everyone an average. We're not like that. We're not robots. We're not machines. We're actually all individual, sovereign, people. We're spirits. We're not reductionist chemicals. We are a holistic being, as you know all this. So, and I'm sure your listeners get this, but that's why with my method, I didn't want it to be it can't be a single method. So in Ayurveda, it's a beautiful system, because what Ayurveda does, it teaches us, is that we're all made up of different energies, and that's what makes us unique from each other. But there are, say, three energies that we consist of, different balances of, and that's Vata, Pitta, Kapha, air, fire, earth, basically. And we can, through a series of questions and the answers to those, figure out what is our predominant energy type. And then through that, you can start to customize lifestyle plans for people that are more customized to who they are, their truth. And this is what we do. So now what we do is we use Ayurveda to use as a diagnostics tool to find out who a person's energy type is, to then be able to guide them and teach them. Okay, a doctor should teach methods, not they shouldn't have all the power. They need to give the power of knowledge they need to empower patients. That's what we do. And the idea is then we can then create a total custom program for that person, which can be adapted and changed as they change, their energy states and everything changes over time. And because of that approach, we're having dramatic results, like phenomenal results. And this is why in India, Ayurveda is very popular now. It's become more popular than probably ever before. It's why Prince Charles goes to Ayurvedic centers, to get treated. He doesn't go to Royal Berkshire Hospital. He goes to India and goes to a top Ayurvedic clinic. All right? That's the truth.
That.
Just do what the royals do, and you'll find out the right way to do things.
Well, it's always funny. And I love your message. I mean, it's the whole term, right? Holistic. We can look at it as the way they spell it, HOLISTIC, but I always look at it from whole. Like you can't, modern society, as you were saying, modern medicine is always that A, B, get to C, right? You have this issue, take this drug, get here, you're good, you're solved. Or even and I have it as a chiropractor, because again, how the conditioning in America has been about chiropractors is, hey, you're just a neck pain, back pain, headache person. That's all you do. So when you have those issues, go see the chiropractor. And it's like, but I educate my patients day one. I don't treat anything. I don't treat a cause. I don't treat a symptom. I don't treat a pain. I don't do anything of that because that's not what I do. There is no one. And they look at me weird. I always get this look like, what the hell am I doing here? Kind of. I wish I could get in their brain just for a second when I tell them that. But then I switch it over and I'm just like, hey, listen, there's no adjustment that does this. There's no adjustment that does that. And so I love that because the approach is when you look at bringing health into a whole realm, you have to take every fabric of it, right? I love how you said breathwork can't do everything. I always tell people the same thing. Chiropractic can't do everything. I educate a lot of my patients on, I go, hey, go check out when I see because I use heart rate variability in my office. I'm assuming you're very awesome. Yeah. And so chiropractors have a certain algorithm that they use in the company that uses the software. But I can tell after a certain period of time, all right, your lifestyle is not supporting you to be healthy. It's not supporting you to be optimal. And so then we start looking at what are facets, right? I can look at diet and all those things, which I do get into later down the road. But one of the things I really go to is the brain, because as chiropractors, we've always said 80% of people's issues is a mental emotional issue. 80%, right? And I know you know this stuff already. And one of the things I always recommend, I go, hey, do some breath work. SOMA Breath is one of the ones. I know you know Wim Hof very well too. And I'm always sharing those types because I'm like, this is a good beginning point to things. Because if I can get your tone down, because I'm doing the foundation, but if you're refiring that nervous system back up, I need you to condition it on your own and build habits so that we can get it down to stay at the level we want to be at. But when you're looking, and I love how you brought blood pressure. You must read my mind. As a guy, I'm not like a big guy or anything. I mean, I'm 6 foot, 225. I've always, and one of the things is
big.
But with that muscle mass, right? They say with more muscle mass, you're going to have more arteries, which means you have to have
all the chiropractors I know are ripped. They're all like phenomenally healthy. Compare that to my uncles and aunties who are all doctors. Oh my God.
Well, we live health, that's what we do. But all the guys and the women I work with I'm very close. Like the ones that are like really pioneering chiropractic to the next level, they're the epitome of health. I mean, you look at them, and it's not just about looks. I mean, they're in great shape, but it's their energy levels and what they're doing and how they play at this high peak performance all the time. I love it. But you brought up something I thought was very fascinating because this is me in the sense when it comes to blood pressure. Even my physiology teacher, when we were doing testing, because we were testing just blood pressure, and we would go get an adjustment. We're doing the whole study on how one adjustment, how it can lower blood pressure over a period of time. Not a treatment. It's just we're stimulating the parasympathetics in the body. For those who are listening, that's the calming, the resting, the repairing, the healing part of the nervous system. And once you do that, then blood pressure will drop. When they check my blood pressure, I'm usually like 105 over 65. That's just normally me. So he checks it. He looks at me. He goes, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "You should have like a higher blood pressure." I'm like, "Why?" I didn't know why at the time. And he's like, "Because you have more mass, more muscles, more arteries. You need more pressure to push it through." I was like, "Doesn't that just mean I have a good heart?" I'm like, I don't know. And then it went even lower. I got the adjustment. I went like to 99 over 59. And he's just like, "That's really low. You should get that checked out." And I was like, "For what?" Here's he's not a chiropractor. He's a PhD in physiology. But it was just funny because I'm looking like, no, but isn't that like how I should be? Even my heart rate's like at 43, 44. Not now. When I was in school, it was. It's around
and
high 40s.
You feel great, right?
Yeah, feel great.
So in Ayurveda, they have a very simple system. Simple thing. You just got to ask yourself this. Do you sleep well? Do you eat well? Do you shit well? Do you piss well? Do you fuck well? Do you have an enthusiasm to work? Do you laugh a lot? Then you're well. That's it.
I love that.
Fuck all this other shit. Go into a fucking medical checkup and like getting diagnosed with something that you don't fucking need. Oh my God, that happens all the time.
Well, look at that. You're bringing up a great point because this is, we can tailor this into a little bit of COVID. Look at, and I know you're probably very well aware of this. And for the listeners, this is probably the first time they're hearing me. I talk a little bit about this here and there, but this may be the first time they hear me say it like this. You know who the inventor of the PCR testing is, correct?
Of course.
Kurt Mullis.
Kerry Mullis.
Kerry Mullis. There we go. And right, I've been sharing this and educating my community in my health arena like crazy when they came out with all the testing that they're going to do. When they came out, they said, "We're going to use PCR testing." And I was like, "No, you don't want to use PCR testing." And I was like, "Hold on, let it not be my opinion because I'm just a chiropractor in some people's view." So I was like, let me look and see what MDs are talking about it. And we had some people who I don't agree with from a health standpoint because they won't have open dialogue on. Like some of them are makers of vaccines. They've invented vaccines. I won't mention their names on my podcast, but one of them's who made vaccines. And when he has a vaccine talk or somebody wants to debate him, he'll just walk out of the room. He won't even, when they start asking him the hard questions, he leaves. So I'm like, come on, you gotta be able to have that conversation. You gotta have that conversation.
Well, what does he have to hide?
That's what I'm saying, right? And it's so quick to make a label and then just walk away. But long story short, even he was like, we shouldn't be using this test. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm with him. Like I was shocked, wow. and there was chiropractors who were coming out sharing his video on podcast and all this stuff, and there was a chiropractor interview to him, and I was going, "This is so weird that I'm seeing chiropractors." And then I'm not saying all chiropractors are the same. We're not like we're anti-vax people or anti-anything. We're not. We're
pro-truth.
We're pro-truth. We're purists. I'm not speaking for all chiropractors because I maybe got to be careful how I say that. I'm a purist, but long story short. He was talking about how RCT or PCR should not be utilized because, again, what is it going to be showing? False positives. False positive. Right? And so what has, I would love to pick your brain on this because I know you're very well informed and knowledgeable on this. Like when it comes to all this with, these false diagnoses and so forth, you gotta look at from your science background and everything. When you're using a test that's not as accurate, it's just like blood pressure, right? It's one of them. You brought up cholesterol. I love how you brought up cholesterol because, like women, when they go through menopause, their cholesterol should naturally be higher. Like my mother, she has a cholesterol of around 250. That's her average. Now you gotta understand. Some people go, "That's not good." And I remember when her doctor first looked and said. I got a lot of respect from her doctor because my mom had severe thyroid where doctors were threatening her. If she didn't go on medication, she'd die. Her thyroid was only 10% functioning. And within 1.5 years, we turned that thyroid around to 50%, and now she's at 99%. Everything has been clean for 7 years. And when that happened, she's like, "You know what? I would recommend this, but I know you have your son who works with you, so how about I do the blood work and monitor things, and we'll do that, and we'll see how things go." And I'm like, "Cool. Can I work with other patients of yours?" She's like, "No." I'm like, I'm trying to help people here. But long story short, the point I'm trying to bring up is my mother is a fitness instructor. She's 64 years old. She can still outperform 30 and 40-year-olds when it comes to when it comes to fitness. But yet her cholesterol is always 250. But the one thing I asked her doctor was, I was like, let's look at her ratio. And let's see from a ratio, guys, is LDL and her HDLs. And you measure that to see that's really more of a better analysis in a sense. And when we look at it, she almost has a perfect 1-to-1 ratio, which is textbook. You don't see
Perfect.
that, right?
Yeah.
And it's one of the things where, but if she went to a standard, normal medical doctor, 250, you need to be on Lipitor, Crescitor, or whatever that may be.
Yeah. So does she eat well? Does she sleep well? Does she fuck well? Does she
I may not want to know the
sing well?
fucking
Does she
part.
laugh a
That
lot?
part I don't want to know, but everything else, yes.
Yes. Then she's well, man. Then she's well. So
I'm going to start using that. I like that one.
it's very simple science, It's very simple.
So you
So
brought
the
up,
problem is like this is a big problem, and it's the fear associated with it. It's black magic, basically. Hippocrates actually says very clearly, never make profit in a sick room. Now, take that one message of his, right? And then transfer it to what's going on in the world today, right? That's all that's happening is profit, profit, profit from sick people, right? And that's where the big problem is. When there's profit potential out of disease, that's what humans lose all their moral code and ethics. Everything goes out the window. Done. The devil comes out to play, right? That's what Hippocrates was. He was so wise that he wanted to prevent all the problems that probably happened in his time, right? He was probably like, look, I have wisdom here. This is the rules we've got to stick by. Let food be thy medicine. Simple rule, right? And first, do no harm. How many of those are still practiced now? Very few. Chiropractors practice them all the time. What we do with SOMA Breath, same thing, but the medical industry does not. And the problem now is that they've become so powerful that we are all under fear of doing the right thing. What a bloody nonsense. That we're scared to do the right thing, that we are being forced to now do things, and say things or not say things out of fear of being like fined or kicked out or shut down and, all kinds of madness. So the whole thing is like fear driven. It's fear based and it's horrible. It's like fear is the worst thing you could ever have for your health. Like that's the one thing you got to control, the fear response, but all we're getting right now is bombarded with fear. And so if I was to check you today for cancer, you're going to have cancer. You're going to have 5 or 6 different types of cancers, maybe 10 or more, but they go away. Your body deals with it. You don't get a proliferation of cancer. It's just everyone has cancer. Everyone has some cancer cells, right? On a day-to-day basis. It's just normal. It's everyday life. But what happens is you go into a surgery. And this happens with cysts, women with cysts a lot. You go in for a regular checkup and the doctor says, oh, found a cyst. At the moment, nothing to worry about. It's okay. It's it's benign. And then you're like, oh, great. And you're about to walk out but then he goes, but there is a small chance that if you don't take this drug or don't do this, then you could turn into, and then that's it. Once you're told that. So there's a doctor I'm quoting a lot from this one amazing doctor who I worship. When you have a guru that you've got to always give respect to the guru. And there's one guy called Dr. B.M. Hegde. I believe he is the father of medicine today. In today's age, he is today's Hippocrates. He basically is a top doctor in India. He has the highest awards you can get. He's a cardiac surgeon. He's super renegade, pioneer of so much incredible stuff. And he's made millions of views on YouTube, massive following online. And he's like 80 odd years old. He's a rock star. He's got more energy than most. Watch him doing yoga on YouTube. He's the kind of doctor that every doctor should respect and follow, but they don't, But, you know, so there's a lot of knowledge that he shares, and one of them is this, is that the manufacturing of disease is going on right now, is making disease out of people who are actually perfectly well, asymptomatic patients who are these super spreaders, you know? So everyone must be vaccinated now. And that's like kind of scary, the thought that we need to vaccinate every single person in the world with something that hasn't been proven yet or tested. But here's the thing: the CEO of Pfizer doesn't want to get vaccinated from his own vaccine. He made that press announcement. Trump's already said he's not going to have it, and the White House ain't going to have it. So what the hell's going on here? Shouldn't they all have it right now? And then at least if it was honest and done properly, and I would want to make sure that they actually pull out a vial that is injected into everyone. No, not some special secret one reserved for them, but the actual one that everyone else is going to get, and do it live in front of everyone. That will just alleviate all of the fear of everybody. It really would. But whether they do or not, I don't know. And I just think that right now we have a case-demic, like a big pandemic of case reports, you know, positive cases. And that's concerning, you know, because you can now create whatever statistics you want. So, you know, everyone's got to do statistics, like basic, they should all go and study a little bit of how maths works, right? How stats works. So, you know, Bill Gates posted about a book called How to Lie with Statistics. Read that book. Okay, everything that's going on now, you'll be able to kind of see it from a different lens if you read that book. And, you know, if you look at the actual study data of these new vaccines, you've got to take into account absolute risk ratio versus relative. The risk ratio right now that they're putting out there is 95%. But actually, the key metric is absolute risk ratio, right? Which is actually around 1%, absolute risk reduction, versus the relative risk reduction, which seems way more attractive than 1%, which is a true, real metric you need to look at. And the BMJ have been reporting very well on this, the British Medical Journal, who are warning us about the rushing of this treatment on an unsuspecting, uninformed audience. And they're saying we must look at absolute. So my knowledge on this comes from the British Medical Journal. So don't shoot the messenger here. We're going to go after the top journal in the UK, one of the most respected medical journals in the world, who is warning all of us. I'm a pharmacist by, you know, qualification. So I like to look at things like this. So we have to take all of these into account and also understand that actually, and I actually have a friend here on this island who does the data crunching for the Saudi government on their coronavirus cases. Okay, believe it or not. And I've seen the data as it comes in. And actually, the chances of getting it in the first place are so slim, of dying from it, are insanely slim. Like crazy, like less than 1%, right? So, you know, and we also have loads of treatment. So go and check out the recent Senate hearing from amazing doctors in America who are treating patients every day, left, right, and center with coronavirus and having great results with a set of different treatments. And, you know, they've got like a multi, prescription, like kind of treatment plan. You know, one of them is with HCQ, ivermectin, you know, there's zinc, obviously, vitamin D3. In India, actually, they're giving COVID packs to people at their home with vitamin D3, ivermectin, HCQ, doxycycline, a bunch of stuff, so that they can have it prophylactically. And India's got a diminishing death count versus, you know, other countries that are much broader spread of population, who are getting much worse cases because they're not doing anything with the patients. So, you know, I'm very concerned right now about all this. Obviously, you can tell. All right. We have all the treatments, but there's also some non-pharmaceutical treatments. that are also showing very promising results. One of them is obviously vitamin D3, sunlight. I live on an island where in Thailand we hardly have any cases, and there's a lot of humidity here, sunlight. So maybe they are factors. Maybe also the Thailand media doesn't push fear into the people so much. So I don't know, like we don't see anyone popping off around us. So there's something to be said for maybe sunlight, humidity, and talk about humidity. So an ancient Ayurvedic treatment, tried and tested, the old grandma's remedy as well for colds and flu and coronavirus is a cold. Don't forget that it's a common cold. It's the same, group of viruses, is simply steam inhalation, right? I just got sent a test, like a whole testimony from a famous Ayurvedic clinic in India where 4,000 patients have been treated through steam inhalations every day, and other kind of immune supporting things. But he says primarily steam inhalation is the thing you need. The reason why, you can look this up, viruses in general do not like high temperatures. They get killed by high temperatures. Okay? Dr. B.M. Hegde also says one of the best treatments for sore throat, viral sore throat, is to sip hot tea. Keep sipping hot drinks, okay, throughout the day. What it does is it raises the temperature of your throat by a degree. That's all you need to do to kill that virus. Raise your internal temperature. What is that called? Fever. So what does your body do when you get sick? You make a fever, right? So a bit of temperature, fever is necessary to kill the bug, because the bug doesn't like it. It doesn't replicate. But what do? We pump them full of paracetamol, right? Patients full of paracetamol, which brings the temperature. You only do that in very serious high temperature cases. Most people don't need paracetamol ever in their lives. People take them willy-nilly, like, no tomorrow. You don't need them so much. And paracetamol, unfortunately, every drug goes to the liver first. It's called the first pass effect. Any chemical you ingest goes to the liver. And what we have a big rise of now is called non-alcoholic cirrhosis of the liver. So you're getting fatty liver, right, caused by chemicals, because people are consuming chemicals, the medications, they're causing liver failure, and people die of the liver problems. So this is a huge problem. Huge is the amount of chemicals people are being filled with on a day-to-day basis, and pollution and all that. So why put in more of that when you don't need it? So you should only use drugs when it's a last resort. That's the Ayurvedic system. Always do no harm. Do whatever you can to prevent. Social distancing is important sometimes, okay? Namaste there's the Indian hello. You don't need to shake hands with somebody who's sick. Just say namaste, things like that. But also, don't be too germophobic, right? We need social interaction. We need to be outside. We need fresh air. We need to be in the sunlight. Okay? These are all important things as well. So, I just think that the whole system has not served us. It's why we've had so many deaths. Experts are being ignored, censored. I've had posts censored, left, right, and center that I shared at the start, which have all come true since, have been proven now by data. So, I hate to say I was right, but I was, it sounds like arrogant, but I'm sorry. I had known a little bit, in my humble years of being somebody doing this work, but breathing techniques as well. Okay. And I want to do a bit more study on why does our stuff help so much. So I think one of the reasons is, so one of the techniques that's in pranayama that's used to kind of kill bacteria, fungi, viruses, and flush out the system, like detox, purify the blood, basically, it's called, is Bhastrika. Okay, Bhastrika is breathing like this. It's a bit like the Wim Hof method. So you do that like for like a minute or so, and you start to feel hot, and you actually induce a bit of a temperature, internal fire gets generated. You exercise mitochondria. That's one of the ice bath tricks, right? Generating heat. Especially forcing the inhale. What do? You produce a short burst of adrenaline. Acts a bit like dexamethasone. What's dexamethasone shown to be good for? Coronavirus symptoms, okay? Is one of the things that they study. But you can produce your own natural steroids by just fast rhythmic breathing for a minute and then hold your breath, okay? And that corrects the physiology because you don't want to keep hyperventilating. You just do it for a bit, okay? So you generate that heat, and also what you do is you change the pH of your bloodstream. And when you change the pH of your bloodstream, you create an alkalinity. So you're slightly going more alkaline because of the excess oxygen you're producing and blowing out carbon dioxide. You're bringing in more oxygen, you're breathing out carbon dioxide. So basically, what happens is you alkalize a system for a short period. And I think if you look at how HCQ works as an antiviral, because remember it's been used for malaria and many other drugs in the past, many other viral diseases and other autoimmune issues, is it works, I think, and I need to double check this, so you can check this yourself, by creating it's worked with alkalinity around the cell. So, and alkalinity prevents the virus from getting into the cell in the first place and causing infection. So I think that Bastrika could be an ancient technique. We need to study it. We need to look at, I'm not going to say it's a cure, but I'm trying to explain why we get such good results. But it could be a natural antiseptic, basically, a cleanser, okay? So that's the only way to really change your blood pH is not through diet. That's not actually how you change. It's through the breath. The breath is the fastest way to change and probably the only way to really directly change the blood pH. And I think it has a antimicrobial effect. But you must always follow that with breath retention. When you hold your breath afterwards and exhale, okay, and hold your breath for a period, it also induces a positive stress response, and it creates a state called intermittent hypoxia, lower than normal oxygen. And that produces this adaptation in the physiology towards having less oxygen. And the benefit of that is you get better cardiovasculation. You actually get better blood flow going to your heart and into your brain. And it prevents things like blood clots, thrombosis, atherosclerosis, plaques, and forming as well. This is all stuff you can look up. We have a whole section on our blog about this stuff. And this is also the mechanism of action of Wim Hof method, why that works so well as well, is that positive stress response. So I've created a system that is rhythmic breathing. Rhythmic breathing has another benefit of creating coherence. You're into HRV, so when you breathe in and out at the perfect rates, you create this state called coherence, where your heart rate variability goes like this, okay? And that is a beautiful physiological state for optimum heart-brain balance. But that is like a form of Bastrika, but rhythmic Bastrika. And then that allows you to then hold your breath for long periods. That's called Kumbhaka. And that's really the magic of what we're doing with SOMA Breath. But we have a series of different breathing techniques for different uses. It's more like a pharmacy library of different methods for different things. And yeah, that's a little bit on that. There's so much more we could go into.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
Now, as I was going to ask you, like, what's the difference? You already mentioned about breathing in, breathing everything out, and then holding. What about if you breathe in and then hold? Is there a difference on health effects of what that does?
Yeah, so that's called Antara Kumbhaka. Now, the only way to really create true hypoxia and to get the levels down long enough is doing it after the exhale, okay? After expiration. So that's when you create this intermittent hypoxic state where the oxygen levels go below 80, then go down like to 70. Some people get it down to like 40. All right. I know, it's amazing. But it's only for a brief period, not for a long time. It's just for a very short period, like one minute or so, 2 minutes. That's all you need. But when you do on the inhale, it's harder to get that hypoxia because you're bringing in the oxygen and you already have oxygen in your lungs, so you get that gaseous exchange. The point of doing the exhale is to have no air in your lungs, and that stops gaseous exchange, yeah, from happening. And that's how you get that real hypoxic state. But you should use the two in combination. So do the exhale first, hold for as long as you can, and then inhale, hold. Do that for as long as it's comfortable. Don't strain it or force it. Some people force the inhale too much and they can get like inner ear issues like tinnitus and things. So, that's the one thing you got to bear in mind is no force in any of these techniques. Keep it relaxed. So yeah, that's a bit of, but there's also one thing that's very important. So remember, yoga was actually inspired from studying animals in nature. Okay. That's why some of the yoga poses look like animals doing stretches and things. And what they found was animals that live a long time, like elephants and turtles, for example, they have very slow breathing rates, okay, of like 2 to 4 breaths a minute. Animals that live a very short time, like rats and mice, they actually have very fast breathing rates, like 20, 40 breaths a minute, okay? But there's an anomaly to this rule, and that's the naked mole rats. Naked mole rats live up to 30 years, and they live free of disease, and the scientists tried to give them infections, right? And they tried to give it cancer, and they were just super strong, robust creatures. Didn't even get cancer. And they realized that what's different is that they are living in hypoxia for most of their life. They're living in low oxygen environments, and they can hold their breath for like 18 minutes at a time, right? And what do yogis do? They learn how to hold their breath for long periods of time, okay? And that's the secret. And why is this? There's an explanation for this in longevity, right? So oxidative stress is the reason. There's a doctor called Helmut Sees who coined the term oxidative stress. He says, although it's very difficult to live without oxygen, it's very difficult to live with oxygen because of this problem of oxidative stress. And basically, it's to do with free radical damage to DNA, and it can actually kill you. Too much oxygen can actually kill you. That's why they have to be very careful when they administer supplemental oxygen to patients, okay? So control of oxygen is the secret to longevity. That is the secret. And the entire yogic pranayamic system is designed to make you so efficient using oxygen that you hardly need to breathe at all, okay? Where your breathing is so slow, so coherent and slow and smooth, right? That's the true yogi, okay? And that shows, okay? Like, so you can see the people who overbreathe suffer from hypertension, they suffer from weight issues, sleep apnea, asthma, all kinds of weird issues, right? And chronic diseases. And basically, that's what kills them. Heart disease and, things are associated with people who have inflammation in the body. And where does that come from quite often? Oxygen, too much over breathing. So when you breathe a lot, it's a sign of stress. When you're chronically stressed, your body produces more adrenaline, and you get into this flight response, and your body is trying to run away from danger, but you're still surrounded by the stress because you can't run away from your boss or your job. You're sitting there dealing with bills, and you go home and you got a wife that you also cannot run away from. So you're constantly bombarded by stress every day, and then you drink coffee, and that adds even more stress to the mix. So that's a big problem, is control of stress response. And if you don't control the stress response, your breathing gets erratic, it goes incoherent, you cause problems with your HRV, your heart rhythms, and you also can overbreathe, meaning you have too much oxygen stuck to your red blood cells, not enough carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide is the medicine. If you can raise carbon dioxide and nitric oxide naturally, carbon dioxide is a vasodilator, nitric oxide is a vasodilator, and it helps get oxygen and blood to where it needs to be, right? And That's the key to getting healthy, is getting good blood flow and blood circulation. I'm pretty sure with chiropractic, the techniques you do, the adjustments and stuff, also influences tension and reducing tension around the body. And tension and things like that diminishes blood flow to the body, right? And it's to do with the nervous system and all that, right? And getting it to trigger properly. So if you get chronic tension, that usually leads to chronic pain. And chronic pain really is just tension. And tension comes from overthinking, over breathing, stress, worry. So the entire system of yoga is all about calming the nervous system down. Chitti Niti Nirodha is all about calming that's the mantra. Calm, bring tranquility to mind. That's the secret to success and health and wellness and happiness. And when you calm and relax, and you'll find that there's a lot of cases of spontaneous remission from Christian faith healers, okay, and Reiki masters. What's happening is that a person is lying there for the first time being cared for. And maybe it's the first time they've calmed their mind and switched off. And what happens? The body goes from defense mode into relaxation response and rejuvenation mode, and tension releases and blood flow goes to the diseased area and healing occurs. And that can sometimes be enough to awaken the person. So that's why we call our course, the 21-day protocol, the awakening protocol, because it's all about awakening your whole physiology up to what it should be. When you become a fully functioning human, a holistic human, with both left and right brain working in harmony with each other, and each brain being taken care of, your gut brain, your sex, your heart, everything in tune. And when you're in your element and your flow and you find your passion, that's when you can really thrive in life. And that's what my whole system is designed to do.
I love that. I think that's it's solid stuff, and everything you're sharing here is really good. Is this why then I've heard many stories of yogis? I don't know if this is an old practice that they used to do, where they'll take a master yogi and they'll go ahead and put 6 feet underground, put them in a coffin, seal it up, and they'll come back and visit 3 days later. And then they'll go, or a week later. I've heard some stories. I've heard Deepak Chopra talk about a week later. And then they'll go ahead and come back and they open them up and they'll be like, good morning. Is that part of like what you're talking about, like the training of hypoxia, hyperoxia, just knowing how to utilize oxygen in those ways?
So what do animals do every winter?
Hibernate.
So this is just human-inducing hibernation. That's what it is. Yogis have figured out the science of mimicking animals in nature. What do reptiles and birds have?
I was going to say cold blood, but that's not true.
Well, yeah, kind of reptiles do, but
reptiles,
what they have
not the birds.
they have a sixth sense, not a sixth sense, a sixth sense, as in they have a super sensory perception. They can sense danger from miles away. They can tell the weather when it's going to change. They can even read. It seems like they can read thoughts in each other. Right? Birds can communicate long distances to each other. Crazy, weird stuff. So even that, by very powerful, high ritual yogic practices, can be mimicked, because our reptilian brain is just like a snake, a serpent. We are, from the coccyx all the way up the spine to the brainstem, serpents. We are lizards. We are reptiles. We are actually reptiles. When David Icke said we're all reptiles, it's true. Well, some more than others, but it's true. We are inside reptilian brains. So we can wake that up, that part of the brain up, if we know how. And there is a deep science. In fact, in India, there are all a bunch of franchises of after-school workshops all about waking up the third eye in children and accelerating learning and all kinds of amazing. I've checked them out. I've been there. I've studied it. I know these techniques. In fact, our SOMA Breath school was based on a lot of these third eye activation techniques, pineal gland activation. So basically, this is tapping into the brain, the reptilian brain, and bringing it under your control. We're almost like we are a few different personalities in one body, but we have a serpent inside. And that's the one we need to tame, to charm. That's the one that actually is easily influenced by environmental factors. And if you don't bring that under your control, it can end up killing you. It's George and the dragon, right? It's all about George slaying the dragon. Well, this is a metaphor, controlling the kundalini, the sexual energy, the serpent energy. That's the kundalini sexual energy. And when we bring that under our control, we can become incredible creators, innovators, spiritual beings, peak performers, athletes. We can even do magic if we wish, and all sorts of stuff. But I'm not going to say that I have done that yet, but we do are aware of this, as being a possibility, because I've seen this stuff in India happening.
Yeah, I've heard so many stories in India about that, and I'm just always like, I gotta learn. Eventually, maybe I may take that up. I don't know if that's my thing, but I'm like, that'd be cool though to do, Or like I'll tell patients sometimes. I practice a lot of Wim Hof stuff, and I did the cryotherapy for years. And I
Yeah.
always tell my patients sometimes, I'm like, I'm practicing to get 50 degrees water sitting in there for 45 minutes. And they're like, why would you want to do something like that? I'm like, you know what? I don't know, but I just want to be able to control my physiology so much that I can be able to, like when the cold's here, I can just shift it like this and then be like, okay, let's create internal heat. And that way I can handle and be more adaptive to different situations.
How long can you get to at the moment?
About 2025 now. I'm working there.
And are you doing any technique while you're in there?
Sometimes I'll do a little bit of some breathing. The kind of breathing you were doing, I'll just do a little bit more. I know breath of fire is not the same as what you were talking about, right? What you were showing us earlier.
So what you want to do to generate heat is you want to put the emphasis on the inhale. When you breathe in twice the length of time as you breathe out, right? You stimulate sympathetic nervous system, you generate heat. Okay. I mean, I'm already sweating just by doing that. It's cool. You try that. Try that. I've spent 30 minutes with Wim Hof in an ice bath at his home. So,
I
it's
can
possible.
only, yeah.
And then there's also, in order to calm the nerves, so you do that for, like, say, 10 times, and then you do toning. Or just om. And that calms the vagus nerve down. It stops you from panicking.
Cool.
Because panicking is what makes you jump out of the ice bath. Right?
What's funny about the ice bath? I've been doing it for so long. Because right now I'm in Chicago and it's winter, so which is nice. I have a 100-gallon livestock tank in my backyard, and I just cover it up. I put Epsom salt and all this other things. I put an ozonator in there to keep it clean, and then I'll just hop out. I'll go outside. It's like 40-something degrees, and I'll hop in there. But no matter how many times I've done it, for some reason, my nervous system's wired this way, where I'm like, for 10 seconds, you look at me and I'm just like, and I'm just trying to call. I'm like, yes. It's panicking. And I've done this so many times, it happens every single time. It's so fascinating. But then, of course, obviously, once I get the breath down, then it's like bliss just hits. And then I'm like, in that moment.
So burst breathing is the way to release that as well. So this comes from Russian martial arts systema. So what you do is when you get that panicky state, just force the exhale several times. This is another way to just calm the nervous system down. It also generates heat. Any kind of hyperventilation generates heat, and cool. And you'll generate heat pretty quickly and calm down. It's actually what you're supposed to do when you're given birth as well.
Makes
Hopefully
sense.
You won't have to do that ever.
I'm hoping not anytime soon, at least, maybe not in this lifetime.
Not in this lifetime.
I love it. Well, brother, I can talk to you for hours. I definitely would love to have you. I'll have you back on again soon, because this is always great to chat with you. I love connecting with like-minded individuals and just be able to have a chat and talk about life. There were so many things we could have gone even more down in in one of those ways. But I love the work you're doing. I've been doing every morning for the last, I think, 60-something days now. I'll go in my infrared sauna and I do your breathwork session. There's some on YouTube I use. And just for the listeners, it's phenomenal. I highly recommend checking it out. Check out the 21 day, check out everything you're doing. I'm not saying that because I've run through it. I've seen it. It's great work. And what you're doing, I mean, like you were just talking about today, right? Just about in cold, even in a cold situation, you can use your breath to create heat. You can use your breath for so many different things. And we talked a lot about this for the listeners. There's a podcast he's been on. Niraj has been on before. We get into the neuroscience of the breath work and everything, and you can tap into there. I'll have that in the show notes. But how can people just, again, connect with you, my friend, to follow
Yeah.
you, all the things, amazing things you're doing for humanity, and so much more?
Yeah, fantastic. So best way would be to go to our website, somabreath.com, and sign up for the masterclass and get onto our mailing list. We give a lot of free training. And you can also check out courses, the 21-day awakening protocol, which is amazing. Really transformative results. But if you want to be an instructor of these techniques, if you fall in love with it, which I'm sure you will, then you can also find out the instructor training there. We have two levels, like first level, which is primary breath work, and then the second master's training, which is the whole holistic health coaching training, which is amazing. You're going to, just even if it's just for yourself and use it for yourself, you're going to be really impressed. And we also have YouTube, Soma Breath on YouTube, with loads of free training and content and techniques you can test out on there for free. And also Instagram, my Instagram, the Renegade Pharmacist, you can look it up. We also have the Soma Breath Instagram. I'll give you all the stuff you can check out. And yeah, I'm sure your listeners could benefit from a discount as well. So I'll give you a special offer for that as well if you want.
Appreciate that, brother. And all the listeners, all this information will be in the show notes, so definitely check that out. Niraj, my friend, I appreciate you. Amazing to have you on. Well, I'm glad we were able to connect again, and I'm looking forward to definitely having you connecting in the new year to share more of your wisdom and picking out some fun topics just to chat. It's a fresher breath air, I always say, to be able to connect with someone who's like-minded, aware. I don't like to use the word awake. It's been, because a lot of people can manipulate that term, but just aware in your level of awareness on different facets, right? It's really, really great to connect with. So appreciate everything you're doing, my friend, and thank you.
No, I
From one
appreciate
human
it,
to
man.
another.
For sure, brother. Respect.